Craig Wall is sedated and lying handcuffed to his gurney in room 227 of the Citrus Memorial Hospital in Inverness, Florida. It's just after 6 a.m. on February 18, 2010, and the 34-year-old had just emerged from a state of unconsciousness that carried from the previous day, when he was found in his 1995 Chrysler Lebaron convertible on the side of the road in Sumter County. Next to him in the car were 2 empty bottles of sleep aid pills. He's in an inclined position, looking at 2 Clearwater homicide detectives leaning forward in their chairs and waiting for him to answer their questions. He can't tell the day, but he knows the month, the year, and that he's in trouble. But before he answers any questions, he wants to get confirmation about something. "Is she all right?" he asks, referring to his fiancée, Laura Taft. "She's all right now, yeah," Detective Joseph Rulin tells him. "Why would you stab her?" he asks, trading question for question. "I went over the edge," Craig responds. The detectives exit the room briefly, brushing past a couple of Citrus County Sheriff's deputies who are guarding it. The detectives confer for a little bit before they re-enter and confront Craig with the truth all along. "Laura is dead, Craig." "I thought she was dead the way all the blood squirted out of her and out of her chest when I stabbed her," he spontaneously spits in response. Stunned by the reflexive nature of the comment and realizing the investigative value of it, Detective Mark Senna, who had turned off the digital recorder when they left the room, turns it back on and asks Craig to repeat what he had just said. This canary will happily sing. What he'll say and what detectives will uncover is equal parts shocking, unexpected, and almost unbelievable that it makes sense to unravel over the preceding 12 days.
Clearwater Police, John.
John, I'm sorry to bother you, but I just heard on the news that there was an accident at the Fairwood Park Apartments.
Uh-huh.
A young lady was stabbed to death. I think it might be my daughter. Do you know the name of the victim? Or if I tell you her name, can you tell me if it was her?
What's your name?
My name is Rhonda Lyon Butita.
Okay. And
my daughter is Laura Taft.
And what's the address you're talking about?
She just moved over to the Fairwood Park Apartment.
Clearwater Police, Amber.
Hey, my name is Shauna Adams. I'm a paramedic with Sunstar.
Yes.
And I am calling in regards to the stabbing that just happened in Clearwater.
Okay.
I received a phone call from one of my friends who is friends with the sister of the dude that just did it.
Hello?
Hi, this is Clearwater Police. Is this Mariana?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I just spoke with Shauna, and she was telling me that some of the information that you had gotten. So you spoke with Gail, is that correct?
Yeah, I did. It's not her, it's her, half brother or whatever, her mom's kid. She just said that he stabbed the crap out of his girlfriend.
Okay.
She said at one point that he called her mom and was going to go off himself and then decided against it, and I guess that's when he went and stabbed her.
Hello?
Hi, is this Gail?
Yes.
We got a call from Mariana that you were driving around looking for Craig.
No, I'm not looking for him. I don't want him to find me. He's nuts.
Oh, okay.
Why didn't he just kill himself?
Did you hear from him at all tonight?
I haven't heard from him. I helped him get his car impounded, and then I went out to dinner with a friend of mine who went to study. And I went home to go to sleep because I had to work all day.
Okay.
And I was sleeping, and my mom called me.
Okay.
And I was half asleep, and she asked me if I would go get his bike because he's going to run off the side of the road and kill himself or something.
Oh.
Clearwater Police, Becky.
Okay, my son's name is Craig Wall. He has a restraining order against him. He just told me on the phone he stabbed his girlfriend. She's at 470 Fairwood.
Hold on one second. All right. You got a call from who?
This lady got stabbed. She's at 470 Fairwood. Can you send someone there and I'll tell you the story? Just get somebody going.
I have somebody there, ma'am. What's going on?
Oh, are you serious?
Yes. What's going on?
I'm in Tennessee. I'm in Gallatin. My son just called me. His name is Craig Wall. He's the one with the restraining order. He told me he just stabbed her.
It started with a loud bang that shook Grace Thompson's apartment at just after 3 a.m. on February 17, waking her from a half-sleep. She is alert enough to hear and remember the screams 30 seconds later. 2 desperate utterances of, "Oh God, someone help me." Grace didn't know it at the time, but she was in an apartment just above where the attack was happening. She and her boyfriend Ryan, who was playing video games at the time, were living in a separate room, a 2-bedroom unit, with a friend of theirs named Christopher occupying the other room. Christopher was the first to exit the apartment, followed by Ryan. Grace stayed back and leaned over the balcony and was told by her boyfriend, who was tending to the victim, to call 911.
We heard a woman screaming, help, we don't know what to do. We don't know what to do. She's bleeding on the floor, she's not waking up. Someone broke into the house and stabbed her.
So she was stabbed?
Yeah, she was stabbed, she's bleeding, and she's not getting up.
Christopher had spotted a mysterious figure in a red car he didn't recognize when he was returning from work at around 3 a.m. It was about a minute or two after he laid in his bed that he said he heard glass breaking directly below him. Before he goes down to see what happened, he said he saw the perpetrator, later identified as 34-year-old Craig Wall, head back to the car and drive off. Laura's mother Rhonda got to the scene quickly, realized what had happened, and collapsed into the arms of Daniel Duvall, a detective with the Crimes Against Children and Family Unit, who described her as a wreck. When the sun rises, the damage, once obscured by the night, will be more apparent. 29-year-old Laura had been stabbed multiple times, the blade of the knife, at least 8 inches long, left lodged in her left shoulder without the handle, which was found on the grass near the body. She had defensive wounds, including one that went through her forearm, and multiple stab wounds to her chest, including at least one to her heart, which was the kill strike. Blood seeped through the front door and surrounded her body. She suffered before losing consciousness from an attack that looked personal. She was declared dead right there in the front entranceway of her new home, in 3 days before her son's birthday. The first piece of evidence was indicated as such by a police marker as brass knuckles found on the grass. At the back of the home, the story of how Craig got in told itself. The shattered glass of the sliding door indicated he wasn't going to be stopped tonight. Also at the back was a knife sheath and a plastic bag with a 2-liter bottle of Mountain Lightning, a pack of pain reliever Excedrin, and sleep aid pills, which were purchased from a Walmart at around 2:50 a.m. It was at that Walmart that Craig tried to get his sister Gail to come get his motorcycle. She was later brought into the Largo Police Department for questioning, where she reiterated that Craig is crazy and the family just learned to keep peace with him by not setting him off. A be on the lookout notice was put out for Craig before he was found later that morning at 5:52 a.m. in his car parked along a fence on State Road 44 and west of I-74 in Sumter County. He was locked in the vehicle and unconscious from an OD attempt. A deputy had to break the driver's side window and remove him. He is then rushed to Citrus Memorial Hospital with labored breathing and seizure episodes. He had to be intubated and wheeled into the trauma room before being moved to the intensive care unit. In the meantime, his red soft-top convertible is taken for processing at a local station, where a search warrant yielded blood on the driver's side door, on the steering wheel, on a leather jacket, and brass knuckles in the passenger's compartment. The next morning, Detective Mike Senna gets the call from the hospital alerting him that Craig is awake and alert. Craig, who was a rambler, wasn't able to tell the date, but knew the month, the year, and the president. He then goes on a tirade about an article in the paper that he felt wasn't fair to him, and was angry that Laura took his money from their joint bank account. When asked what happened the morning before, he explained that he didn't even try knocking or ringing the doorbell. He said he brought a knife and brass knuckles to intimidate her so she would stay and listen to him. He inquired about whether her son was in the apartment before pleading with her to just sit on the couch and listen to his side of the story. But she wasn't entertaining him. She started to make a run toward the back door before she was grabbed. He further claims he didn't want her to cut her feet on the broken glass, so he dragged her to the front door, where he alleged she took the knife from him and attempted to stab him, but he overpowered her, took the knife back, stabbed her 2 or 3 times, and then fled the scene. He later apologized for hurting her. Craig is released on February 22 and taken to the medical wing of the Pinellas County Jail, where he is seen going limp in what appears to be a form of protest, forcing the guards to drag him inside. This act would become sort of symbolic for what he was going to do with the Florida justice system. But until then, detectives will make good progress early. On the 18th, they got Craig to admit to harming Laura, had blood evidence in his car, and received information that day from two men who shared a brief moment with Craig at the back of a police escort van days earlier. The men said Craig told him that he loved Laura but also hated her for lying about him. "I can't believe she's doing this shit to me," he allegedly said. "I'm going to choke the life out of that bitch when I get out of here for doing this to me." Detectives now had witness statements indicating possible premeditated intent. If this is true, the question left to answer is, why? Craig Wall lasted just a couple of days as a telemarketer at a company called Millennium Tanning in Largo before he parted ways with the company in late 2008. But it was just long enough for him to make a friend in Tim Chamberlain, who endured at the job for about as long as he did. The two bonded over mutual benefits. Craig was Tim's transportation, and Tim gave Craig, who was sleeping in his car, a place to stay. The two eventually part ways after crashing out at the job and don't get in touch until the new year, when Tim gets a call out of nowhere. After returning from a trip to Alabama, Craig tells Tim that he found lodging at the Keystone Trailer Park with a girl they both knew from Millennium Tanning, newly divorced Laura Taft. Laura's ex-husband Christopher Taft was at a McDonald's the day before the murder when Craig approached him asking for a favor. He was trying to get the visitation schedule for his once-upon-a-time stepson, the 5-year-old Christopher and Laura shared. To Christopher, this was a blatant attempt to get Laura's new home address. "Well, I don't know what it is. I don't have it with me," Christopher said he told him, according to a police narrative. It just so happened that at 5:45 p.m. that day, the 16th of February, Christopher received his son for a handoff, so the kid wasn't inside Laura's place when 10 hours later, Craig came crashing through. It was a place that Laura barely had time to settle in when it happened. The 29-year-old mom had days earlier moved out of the Park Place apartment she shared with Craig at 635 Fairwood Avenue and moved into apartment 153 at 470 Fairwood Avenue, which was in the same complex. It wasn't an ideal arrangement. In fact, Laura was advised by Carrie, a property manager, that if she feared for her safety, she should leave the complex altogether. But she put her son before herself, electing to just relocate within, hoping that this new location would be kept a secret, and banked on a temporary restraining order she filed against Craig a week earlier to keep him at bay. As far as Laura was concerned, February 16 represented the prologue to a fresh start. She was in the leasing office in the early evening of that day to get a new key to her mailbox and fielded recommendations from Carrie about things to do in St. Pete, such as salsa dancing, to get her mind off the past 11 days, which included one scary moment at the apartment office a few days earlier. On February 11, after being discharged from Morton Plant Hospital for a mental health episode, and despite already being served with the restraining order, Craig came by the office to get in the apartment he shared with Laura and learned that the unit was no longer leased out to him. That's because the lease on which he was a co-signer was transferred to the other unit in the complex for Laura's protection, but he didn't know this at the time. He just knew that Laura left. What Carrie does tell him is that he needs to get a police escort to remove his stuff from the unit, so she calls the cops for him. For the 20 minutes he is waiting for the police to arrive, Craig is venting about his situation. Laura, he rants, effectively rendered him broke and homeless, and he wants to know where she is, but the office won't tell him. He even tried their mutual neighbor, Elizabeth Wandell, but she testified that she was deliberately ignoring him. The point is, as this conversation is happening, an emotional and shaken Laura was hiding in Carrie's office, where she sought refuge after spotting him coming up. This was inevitable. Craig was inevitable, because despite the restraining order, he would make frequent appearances at the office. Laura, in fact, just missed Craig by a couple of hours days later on February 16, when, out of nowhere, he showed up in the early afternoon on the day she went to pick up her mail key. "He freaked me out," Carrie said. "I saw evil. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. His eyes were bugging out of his head. He was shaking like a leaf. Looked like he just came off a high. I was scared, and people don't scare me." Carrie told him he was not allowed to be on the property with the outstanding restraining order still in place. Never mind the property. If you asked Laura, Craig shouldn't have been out on the street at all that day. He should have been in jail. I was scared for my daughter, said Laura's father, John Bredesen, about the first time he met Craig at his place for the introduction. He had my daughter showing up in a little sundress with her hair in braids and high heels on, and was bragging that he finally made her wear a dress. And all I saw was somebody who wanted control, who wanted to make sure that she did what he wanted her to do, he added. And I advised her strongly to get rid of him, and it fell on deaf ears, unfortunately. Otherwise, John said he didn't spot anything that would suggest he was harming her in any way, and you certainly wouldn't get that impression from the photos of them together at Easter celebrations, times out at Busch Gardens, and photos with Laura's son, who Craig took in like his own. Some of those photos were taken about a year after Laura's ex-husband Chris filed for divorce in late April 2008, which was finalized that summer. Laura was a good mother, Rhonda said in court. She would do anything for her children. They always came first. She would never hurt them in any way. Laura was a good person. She would do anything for anyone. She always found the good in other people. And Craig was no different in Laura's eyes. She saw someone she felt was a good father who tried to improve his pre-existing difficult situation, which her parents didn't know about. Because for months, Laura's mother and father didn't know Craig's last name. And that was for very, very good reason. It's a chilly Sunday, the 14th of February, and a small gathering is starting to form outside of the St. Dunstan Church in Largo. Many friends and family of Laura's have come to attend the funeral of a young member of the Taft family. The mood is somber. Laura had at one point collapsed sobbing in the arms of her ex-husband, who had some of his own family in attendance. But the grieving period was cut short when a hurricane in human form came rolling through. Uninvited, Craig drives through the front of the church, but doesn't make a complete stop. He had been escorting two of his friends, one who was instructed to deliver a speech on his behalf, and the other who was told to film it. He got within 100 feet of the door, slowed down briefly, flipped off Rhonda, and drove away. Laura calls the cops. This guy, she tells them, just violated the restraining order. Craig was frustrated. He was 2 days removed from failing to persuade a Pinellas County court to modify the restraining order to allow him to attend the funeral. His application was denied just 4 hours after filing because Laura wasn't notified and there wouldn't be enough time before the funeral for a hearing. Craig agrees to meet police at the Largo City Library where he is arrested without incident. An arresting cop said Craig was emotional, rambling, gritting his teeth, and clenching his fists as he blamed Laura for his situation, and tells police that he didn't think he violated the order, even though he was found to be inside Laura's sphere of protection to break it. He's placed in a police transport van where he tells Danny Welker and another arrestee that he's going to choke the life out of Laura when he gets out. When he gets in the meantime, he'll call his mother about his situation.
She had me arrested, Mom. I'm just so stunned, Mom. I can't even cry about it. It's just too stunned.
Craig, you know she was going to be there.
I know.
I wouldn't even have pulled into the driveway. I would have dropped him off somewhere. You know she's there, so to them it's looking like you're instigating. You know you went to try to you were denied court to go there. So everybody's looking to make sure you don't show up there. When I talked to you, he was just going on your behalf. So you already know that I can't be in that area. They all could have been standing outside. They know the vehicle. You just set yourself up too. So now what do? Stuck in there till Thursday when they have the hearing, or what?
Oh, wait, no. I'm stuck in here till tomorrow when they decide whether or not they give me a bond or they release me, which I don't know which one they're going to do.
Well, if you're on a restraining order, they're not going to release you on ROR if you violated a restraining order, are you?
I don't know.
Well, and that's good on their side. If it were me,
right,
and it was a restraining order, and I could get you on violating the restraining order, it's going to look better for me next Thursday so that it'd be easier to get a permanent one. That's all.
Exactly, and I know that, Mom.
Well, they know that too.
I
Well, they know that too. And like I told you, what's the difference if they get a permanent restraining order? You're not going near Laura or over in that area anyway. You need to completely stay away from them because all they're trying to think up is how they'll get the restraining order to be permanent,
Right.
which, like I said, isn't a big deal either. But go find a place to stay, Craig, and when you get out of there, go find a place to stay, go get a job, and don't even talk to them on the phone.
Well, you can check.
What? I'm asking you now because I said I got to go.
Well, I'm telling
So I'm asking you now. What do you want me to do, Craig?
At least you can know what's happening to your son. This wrong stuff, Mom. This very, very effing wrong stuff that's been happening to me. I did not.
And I heard you, Craig, but I said, there's nothing I can do, and then you're all angry because there's nothing I can do.
I'm not angry because you're...
What do you do now? I have to wait till they post bail or let me out. That's what I'm waiting for. So I can't call you when I get over there, you said. I'm not going to be able to call you.
Okay. Well,
You want me to go through all that again slower so you can get it?
why are you doing this? I'm in.
Because I can't understand you, can't hear you, and when I say I'm going to let you go, you're not letting me go.
Okay, well, I'm trying to tell you that I don't know how I'm going to get out if I have bail, Mom, because your phone call, Mom.
Where's his father? He needs to talk to him. I can't fucking deal with this. What?
I don't know what to do. The truck is in the...
And neither do I.
Craig is held without bail until his first court appearance the next day, the 15th of February, when he stands up among dozens of others in his position and declines to take the assistant state attorney's offer to plead guilty to the misdemeanor, have no contact with Laura, and pay $650 in fines and costs. "No, sir. I didn't do anything wrong, sir," Craig said in response to the offer. He will fight the charge. Until then, the court will need to determine the issue of bail. The young prosecutor proposes a bond of $2,500, which was said to be on the higher end for the misdemeanor, while Craig's public defender suggests $500. Judge George Juraka rejects both, opting instead to set it at $1,000, coupled with a no-contact order through to the next injunction hearing on the 18th of February, one day after Laura is killed. Barely a full day after being arrested, Craig is out after posting the amount through a bonding agency that very same day, and he's really pissed off. When asked how he felt the day after Laura's murder, the judge told WTSP.com at the time, "Pretty bad. It's an unfortunate situation. But if you knew better, and we certainly do in hindsight, the unfortunate situation bit didn't tell the scandalous part of the story." The young prosecutor in the case failed to bring forward to the judge Craig's history in the Florida Department of Corrections and an outstanding investigation into him. Information that possibly could have raised his bond, kept him locked up for longer, and maybe even prevented Laura's murder. Days from now, the office of the state attorney will be thrown into turmoil. "It was my birthday party," Rhonda tells Craig, who was representing himself on cross-examination about the day in April 2009 when she found out who he was. Craig was known to Laura's family like people know Cher, as a mononym. Laura had kept Craig's last name from her parents, simply telling them that he was just some guy working in construction, which was not true. At the time, Craig said he was jobless and subsisting off the $25,000 he got from a motorcycle accident. "I don't remember why we talked about your age," Rhonda recalls from the party. "You flipped out your driver's license and we saw your last name." "I did it on purpose," Craig fires back immediately, "because unlike your daughter, I don't like lies." Wall isn't the hardest name to forget, so Rhonda goes over to her computer and types his name into the first website she thinks of when she sees this guy, that is, the Florida Department of Corrections, and hits search. It's the early evening of November 11, 1993, and seniors Alfred and Catherine Steinbeiser are staying at Catherine's mother's place, a one-story, two-bedroom single residence on Dartmouth Avenue North in St. Petersburg. The couple was visiting on vacation from North Carolina and had been sitting in the living room watching TV after dinner. Catherine's mother, 82-year-old Helen, had already gone to bed. It was warm, so they had a fan running and left the inside front door open, leaving the screen door closed to keep the bugs out. Half an hour later, at 9:30 p.m., a white man described as about 150 pounds wearing a backwards dirty white baseball cap, a flannel shirt, blue jeans, and dirty white tennis shoes pushed through the screen door. The young fellow came in with a gun and pointed it at my wife, who was sitting on the couch, Albert testified in the fall of 1994, noting the gun was a chrome .357 revolver with a 7 or 8-inch barrel and a scope, like a target pistol. "I want the fucking keys to that car out there," the man said, pointing to the 1992 maroon Ford Taurus, which had been driven from North Carolina and was parked at the curb. "Give him the keys, Kathy," said Albert, who now had the gun pointed at him. Kathy gets up, goes to the little oval table at the end of the couch she was sitting on, grabs the keys, and hands it to him. The robber then takes the Taurus and drives away. At around 1:30 p.m. the next day, the Steinbeisers are told to drive to a location with their rental car to make an identification after officers recovered the Taurus, which was parked in an alleyway between 21st and 22nd Avenue South, and nabbed a suspect. The police didn't need to try too hard to find it because the car had North Carolina plates, the front one being distinctly decorative. When they got there, 18-year-old Craig Wall, who initially gave police his father's name, was sitting in the back of the cruiser. No doubt, he was the one who robbed them, the Steinbeisers confirmed to the cop. Craig denied it was him. He said on the evening of the robbery he had been at a friend's place playing cards, quarters, watching movies, and importantly, drinking. A lot. He said he had a 12-pack of beer, half a gallon of gin, and a few shots of vodka, all somehow without getting alcohol poisoning. He claimed he passed out several times, one of those times being in the back of the stolen car, which he said his friend took. He said he awoke in the back seat with the car keys next to him and tried to contact the friend, but he wasn't answering. He drove the car around and only realized then that it might have been stolen. By then, it was too late. "Put your fucking hands out of the door or I'll blow your brains out," he claims a cop hollered at him, probably with a bit more energy. Craig could never keep his story straight. His credibility was low. He was found by a jury to be guilty of grand theft auto, a third-degree felony, and robbery with a firearm and burglary with a firearm, both first-degree felonies. Before being sentenced, Craig elected not to have a pre-sentence investigation that would have taken some 6 weeks to complete and would have included details of a brutal childhood coming up in Erie, Pennsylvania, in which he never met his father, despite repeated efforts to contact him, and in which he was allegedly sexually abused by a babysitter when he was around 2 years old, which his mother said completely transformed his behavior. Those behavioral changes included acting out and violence, such as when he lit fires under his bed and tried hanging his brother with a scarf because he claimed he would pull his ears and throw toys at him. His family moved to Florida when he was 9, but at the time of the robbery, he was in St. Petersburg as a kid in transit, living temporarily in the home of an elderly black lady who he called his grandmother but with whom he shared no blood relation. His lawyer told the judge for mitigation that he found documentation that said his mother was, at one point, ordered to take him back, as he claimed she wouldn't let him back in the house at 16. To be sure, Craig hated his mother, who had him at 18, and there had been allegations that she physically and psychologically abused him when he was growing up. Those allegations come largely from self-reports Craig made when he was younger. Craig, who had been enrolled in a program for severely emotionally disturbed students, had already racked up some juvenile felonies by the time of the robbery. Between 1988 and 1991, roughly between the ages of 13 and 16, he was arrested for criminal mischief, false fire alarm, batter of a school employee, trespassing, burglary, obstruction, loitering, and an arson in 1991 of the halfway house he was living in, for which he was sent at 15 to the disgraced and shuttered state reform institution called the Arthur Dozier School for Boys in Marianna, which has a history of mistreating the children under its care, to put it lightly. Before his 10th birthday, on March 5, 1985, a doctor at the Children's Center wrote in a report that there is no question that Craig Wall is a seriously disturbed and dangerous child. Craig's reason for waiving the pre-sentence investigation was that he felt it wasn't fair that he had to spend any additional time in the custody of the system, and he hoped for leniency in the case. But a first-degree felony carries a heavy punishment no matter who you are, and before handing down a maximum 17-year sentence, the judge tells him that he hopes he will, quote, Learn to develop some self-worth so that when you get out of prison, you will do something other than the force of action you've taken so far in your life, irrespective of the consequences that have brought you this far, i.e. the family situation, or lack thereof. Craig probably didn't hear him. He only had to serve a minimum of 3 years before being eligible for release, but instead did a grand total of 15 inside the big house, thanks to a litany of conduct violations, a minimum of 1 every single year until at least 2006. He was released back into the wild on September 3, 2008 in familiar territory, this time older, maybe not wiser, and with a rap sheet that put him at an even bigger disadvantage in life. Again, a transient, a couch surfer with his car as a mainstay, a picker-up of odd jobs and a smooth talker to the females, the last being Laura Taft, who, when confronted by her mother about what the hell she was doing with a guy like this, said, "You deserve a second chance," Rhonda tells Craig on cross-examination about what Laura told her after the internet search. Rhonda pleaded with her husband to talk to Laura, but their daughter again insisted that he deserved that second chance. Perhaps Laura's stubbornness was an illustration of her unconditional love for Craig. Or maybe she thought they were already in too deep. While it's not evident from the official record whether any party knew at the time, April 2009 wasn't just the month Craig was finally unmasked, but, going by the math, it would have been within those 30 days that the couple conceived their own child as well. Morton Plant Hospital in Clearwater had been Craig's home for 3 days when, on the 9th of February, he received the papers that would turn his world upside down. His eyes dart from left to right as he goes over devastating line after devastating line of a short paragraph explaining why Laura filed and was granted a temporary restraining order against him the day prior. Craig has a very, very bad temper and gets very mad easily, read part of the paragraph. When Craig gets mad, he tends to hit things. When Craig gets like that, he scares me and my son. Craig has always said if I leave him, he would kill me. He didn't expect this. The reason he was admitted into Morton Plant in the first place was because a concerned and distraught Laura called the police after she received a voicemail in which he threatened to end it all 3 days prior. The police escorted him out of the apartment and took him into protective custody under the state's mental health law called the Baker Act. The restraining order didn't just prevent him from getting near Laura, but it effectively barred him from his home and from the funeral on the 14th. Upon release from Morton Plant on February 10, Craig will find out that Laura has moved out of their apartment. He is left to live in his truck, a life he thought he had escaped. On the day of the funeral, a leasing consultant at the Park Place Apartments named Crystal was in the office when Craig walked in. Crystal was wondering where he had been the past few days. She almost missed all those times he came in to complain about various problems with the apartment. But this wasn't one of those normally cheery conversations. Craig sat down, pulled out the restraining order, and, through tears, was reading it to her, disputing the claims as he went along. Crystal, who said she liked Craig but was instructed to call the police if he showed up, saw someone who was lost, depressed, distraught, and confused. He told her he believed that the police were trying to turn him and Laura against each other, and complained that Laura took his baby from him. It was October 2009 when Craig anxiously picked up the phone and called Laura to find out what was happening with the pregnancy. "Babe, I went for the sonogram and they said it's a boy," he claims Laura told him with a concern. Craig, who claimed he wanted a kid because he got no love growing up, conveyed that he previously told her that he wanted a baby girl, but that it ultimately didn't matter to him. "I wanted a girl because I could be a dick as a dad to a boy," Craig said in court. "I have to do punishments." While Craig claimed this was a non-issue because it was just a preference, it nevertheless indicated some underlying tension between the two. It was a nice relationship, but there was still butting heads every once in a while, Laura's father, John, told Craig on cross-examination about what he observed. Both of you were hard-headed. Craig called Laura a liar, alleged she lived in filth at the trailer park where he claimed there were noisy alcoholics for neighbors, not an environment in which he raised children, and accused her of not doing more for her own offspring when it came to special occasions. They moved into the Park Place apartment that October, when Laura was roughly 7 months pregnant. There, they got a mixed reception. The downstairs neighbors complained of Craig playing loud music, sometimes the same song over and over, and him banging on the floor, ironically, to get them to turn down their televisions. By contrast, no one complained about Laura. Their neighbor, Elizabeth Wandell, in fact, bonded with her over their respective late pregnancies. Laura and Craig were getting very close to introducing their own kid and completing the family. They would do a trial run of what the family dynamic might look like when the Christmas season rolled around. That December, Craig bought some toys for his stepson. He emphasized to the court that the toys required batteries that he needed to charge first, and then repackage so they were ready to go immediately after reopening. He was trying to make the point that he cared about his stepson. But that underlying tension emerged again. He claimed that he did most of the Christmas shopping, that she didn't listen to him when he told her not to get certain things, and complained that she ruined a Christmas hat he got her by wearing it while her hair was wet. These were such minor things to raise that the prosecution believed it just served to prove his controlling nature. But the couple endured through their fights with far less than what Craig pulled out on Christmas Eve. It was a present that was the missing piece in the family equation. He just had to make Laura work for it.
Open it, dude. Santa box. Isn't it a nice box though? Is that a nice box?
And another box. And another box. And another box. And another box. And one more. Hey, we're keeping going. And there's a bag. What is it? I'm glad that you found this hysterical.
It's funny.
What is it? A bag? Another bag. Another bag. Another bag with a little box in it. And a box in it. A box. Another box.
She knows what's in it.
Another
She's
box.
faking.
Another box. Another box. Put it on. Are you gonna ask?
You gonna marry me, babe?
Yes, I will marry you.
Of course you will. You love me.
No.
You're so full. Ain't a nice ring.
Wow, and it snaps.
Here, hold this, dude. Point it at us, dude. Hold it. Kind of big. A little bit big. You like diamond? It's the size you want. It's a quarter.
Yeah.
And it's got no flaws in it.
And just like that, the family unit was strengthened. They will later plan to marry in March, the month after her murder. In the intervening period, they'll turn their attention to the more urgent matter, the being in her belly, who had been clamoring to get out on that 39th week of the pregnancy. And right on cue, as 6 days later, on December 30, 2009, a healthy 8-pound, 10-ounce Craigwall Jr., better known as CJ, is born without issues. The lives of two people coming fresh out of relative hardship, Craig the felon and Laura the recent divorcee, were about to change. For the worse.
Someone here.
I'm sorry. I can't.
It's the late afternoon of Wednesday, the 3rd of February, and Laura, an assistant manager at Millennium Tanning, is preparing to get off work. It's been a week and a half since the 25th of January, when she returned to the job after taking the rest of the month off to care for her newborn. Laura had been working at this company for about 3 years, according to Craig, and was bringing in a good amount of money for the couple. After getting a raise, the two decide that Laura, who was making far more than Craig at his handyman job, would be the breadwinner, and Craig, who had experience feeding and changing his baby brother when he was younger, would be the stay-at-home dad. On the week of her return to work, Craig resigned from his job.
Are you okay with being a stay-at-home dad?
Yeah, no, well, I didn't want to quit my job. We argued about that because I feel like a piece of shit because I'm not bringing in any income.
What does she do?
She's an assistant manager at a company.
Oh, okay.
She makes almost $500 a week. I was making nothing. I was breaking my neck every day to make nothing, but I was happy to do it. I complained about it, but I was bringing in money for my family. I didn't care. I didn't care what I was doing. I don't care. I flip burgers. I try to get a job at McDonald's. They won't hire me because I did something when I was little.
That Wednesday, Laura and Craig, who is caring for 4-week-old CJ, are separately heading to Rhonda's home to drop off the baby so they can go to a Pinellas Park mall to get Laura new, smaller clothes following her pregnancy. When they get back 4 hours later at 9 p.m., Craig agrees to go back home by himself because he wants to play loud music in the car. Laura takes Craig's convertible and straps CJ into his rear-facing car seat in the back, but the car has a defect. Its back seat shoulder strap wouldn't lock properly, so if a car were to stop abruptly, the extra slack in the belt wouldn't stop the passenger's upper body from going too far forward. Otherwise, the lap belt, which held the baby seat in, was in working order. Sometime later, Laura bursts into their home and, according to Craig, starts demanding to know why he wasn't picking up the phone. Craig sees that, indeed, he missed her calls and says he didn't know she was calling because the loud music drowned out his phone's vibrations. The story goes that as she was driving home, a motorist cut her off as he was changing lanes, causing her to pull on the emergency handbrake from 45 miles per hour, which he believed caused some whiplash. Laura said she pulled over and immediately checked on CJ to see that he was smiling and looked fine. Craig claims she called him because she wanted him to deal with the motorist.
She chased the dude and she came home. Like she admitted in the thing that she came right behind me in the parking lot and started screaming and yelling about this motherfucker, blah, 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 blah. So my first concern was my son.
CJ was described as an easygoing baby for the most part, according to Elizabeth Wandell, the neighbor who babysat him on 4 separate occasions, including for half an hour on the afternoon of the near collision. She said he was a bit spoiled, where he liked to lay on the pillow across people's laps while he was being rocked. She said she fed him a bottle that afternoon and noticed that he was fussier, which she attributed to the discomfort and pain from the circumcision he had earlier that very same day. Craig said he was told the procedure would cause nausea and vomiting, so they shouldn't be alarmed by it. But he was instructed not to feed him for a little bit. While still in the hospital parking lot, however, Craig said CJ started crying again, so he did what he knew to do to keep him quiet, feed him, which he said made him vomit again. The next morning, Thursday the 4th of February, while Laura was at work, Craig said CJ threw up on their bed, then got hungry again, so he gave him another bottle. He put the sheets in the wash, held the baby, burped him, and put him in his bouncer. Then he started making what he called hitching noises. He puts a thermometer under CJ's arm and gets a reading of 93 degrees Fahrenheit, which is low. CJ is cold, so he bathes him in warm water until his color returns. He then blow dries and wraps him up. Craig tells Laura what happens when she comes home from work that day. She gives the baby some pain reliever and prepares dinner for the night. Later, Laura goes to bed while Craig stays up. Craig says CJ vomits again, this time so violently that he believes he inhaled some of the formula. He freaks out and says he brings Laura to a half slumber, but she's saying things that don't make sense because she's not really awake and tells him she wants to sleep. Craig says he manages the situation by again taking him to a warm bath, air drying him, and putting some lotion on him before wrapping him up and holding him. He turns on the TV show Hot Pursuit and stays up to ensure CJ is okay before feeding him for the last time at 2 a.m. and turning into bed half an hour later. Later that Friday morning, Laura wakes up and gets dressed for work. She feeds CJ and then lays him next to Craig, propped up on a pillow with another on his chest holding the bottle, kisses them both, and then leaves the home with her other son at 7:30 a.m., drops him off at daycare, and heads to work. A few hours later, Laura can hardly focus on her work. She had been expecting a checkup call from Craig at 9 a.m., but she never got it. She decides, between work obligations, that she's going to call him at around 11:30 a.m. When she does, he picks up and sounds nervous. When she gets off the phone, she'll immediately call her mother and, sounding panicked, tells her to come over to her workplace right away. When Rhonda arrives, they'll hop into one car and travel together to All Children's Hospital in St. Petersburg. Welcome
Friday,
to Day 1.
February 5, 2010, 10:34 and 46 seconds.
911, what is your emergency?
Yes, my 4-week-old baby stopped breathing. He asked, what
is the address?
The word? 635 Fairwood Avenue, apartment 372. He won't breathe. He breathed. I was sleeping, and he was sleeping with a bottle in his mouth. He aspirated on the formula.
Okay,
I could hear it in his lungs, and he won't breathe.
Okay, the address again, please.
635 Fairwood Avenue, apartment 372.
372. What city?
Craig Wall.
Okay, sir, I do have help on the
4
way.
weeks old.
Okay, what's
4 weeks old, he's not breathing, his stomach is distended. Come on, CJ. Come on, buddy. It's coming out of his nose and stuff, and a little blood, too. Maybe it's because he hasn't breathed in a while.
Okay, does your building have a number or a letter
Come
to it?
on, buddy. No, it's just building 635.
Okay, and what's the name of the complex?
Park Place Apartment.
Park Place. Okay, sir, I do have help on the way out there. I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. Hold on just a moment, please.
Come on, buddy. Come on, dude.
First responders had to knock when they arrived. Craig calmly opens the door and tells him that his baby was choking. CJ was lying in the hallway. They notice a large amount of formula in his mouth, which had to be cleared, and then work on him until they get a faint pulse. He is then airlifted at 11:06 a.m. to All Children's Hospital, where doctors find his pupils are badly dilated and unreactive in the emergency center. He is not breathing and is bluish in color. But there's still hope. Without intubation and suction intervention at the scene, he would have been dead where he laid, according to pediatrician Dr. Sally Smith. He is taken to the intensive care unit later that afternoon. Meanwhile, Craig drives himself to the police station for an interview, which begins at just after 12:30 p.m.
I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm going to try not to be defensive, okay? But you people are holding me in here while my son is in the hospital, and I'm telling you, I really do not appreciate this shit.
Okay. I understand that, and I want you to know from I've never met you, okay? I've never had dealings with you, so I don't have any preconceived ideas about you or anything like that,
But it's
okay?
not about preconceived. You people have me in here like I did something wrong.
No, sir,
I
that's
didn't
not
do
true.
anything wrong, and you have me
Sir,
down at the
if
police
you-
station. You're questioning me. I already told you
Okay,
what
Mr. Wall,
happened.
just listen just for a second, okay? It's my job to listen to what you have to say, and then it's my job to give you answers as to what happened to your child. And that's the only process that we're doing here right now. Okay? The medical people help me, and you help me, because I wasn't there. All right? And that's why we're here talking, and that's it. All right?
I already told you what happened. I don't know what happened.
As this conversation is happening, doctors order a CAT scan for CJ, which will be completed at 1:13 p.m. Photos of a distraught Laura will be taken, and while they conduct the interview with Craig, detectives will be communicating with the hospital to get periodic updates about CJ's condition, which will be used as the basis for some questions. Before he gets into what happened that morning, Laura calls him and tells him he needs to be at the hospital. He tells her he's being questioned and will be allowed to come when the interview is done. I note this only because it provides an indication about how fast things were moving. Craig's story from that morning is very hard to follow, so here's the gist. He wakes up at 10 a.m. to CJ doing these little cries, which he says is normally an indication that he's hungry. He then notices that his body, the pillows, and covers are soaked and assumes it's vomit, so he takes off the baby's clothes and sees his belly is distended. He carries him to the kitchen, makes him another bottle, and sits on the couch to feed him. Craig is feeling hungry himself, so he props CJ and his bottle up on a quilt and lays him on his back as he goes to the kitchen to make himself something to eat. But before he can, he says he hears a cough. When he goes to check on CJ, He sees that he has only eaten a little bit of his formula. That's when he notices.
He was just...
Okay, he's limp. Okay.
Yeah.
Were his eyes open or closed?
They were like slitted.
Yeah. And then what'd you do next?
But like I said, he sleeps like that, so I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So then I did a little bit of movement with him.
You patted him on the back?
Yeah. And then I kind of like did like this a little bit to see if he was, because his chest wasn't moving.
Okay.
And then he kind of,
okay.
And then he wouldn't do it no more for a little while. So I did his chest like this a little bit.
You mean he didn't gasp and he didn't breathe either? Is that what you mean when he didn't do it?
Yeah, he wasn't doing anything.
Okay.
So I listened to his chest and his heart seemed to be beating fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't hear no oxygen going in his lungs.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, just real quick. When you put him on the floor and you were doing the little knee bends and the arms, was he making noises? Was he like giving you resistance, or was he still limp?
He gave a little bit of breathing there. And as long as I was messing with him, he was hitching.
Okay.
So then I assumed that it was like yesterday that he just needed a warm bath again, or at least a cold one. Spray him with the cold and make him hitch, and maybe cough up if he's got fluid in his lungs. And so I took him in, and I went into the bathtub, and I didn't even take time to put his little bathtub thing in there, which I did yesterday because I was kind of scared. And so I turned on the cold water, and I sprayed him with it in the chest and in the leg and the pee-pee to get him cold, so maybe he'd hitch or start breathing. But he's just laying there. I got my hand behind his back, holding his head with his back like right here, and his arms are just hanging. You know, so he's not, and his eyes are like this.
Did you have baby CPR? Did you take the baby CPR class?
Only thing I knew how to do is the CPR part, not the compression. That's why I didn't do the compression, because I was scared. I didn't want to break his ribs or something. The only thing I did do is I like held him in the sides, and I pushed his lungs his ribs a little bit to the sides. So I don't know.
At any point did you shake him to wake him up, to make him responsive, anything like that?
What do you mean?
You know, if he's limp in your arms, did you, hey buddy, wake up?
Yeah, but I didn't do it like that.
Or how did you do it?
I didn't shake his arms.
Okay,
how did you do it? Like this.
You have a doll?
I think so.
Okay, hold on.
Are you trying to say I shook him and gave him shaken baby syndrome? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not trying to say anything. I'm trying to find out
that would not
exactly
do what happened to him, though. If I shook him, he would not. If the shaken baby syndrome stuff, I've read about that. If you did that, he would not have phlegm in his lungs from it. So how does he have phlegm in his lungs and they were sucking it out when they got there too? But you're asking me whether or not I shook him.
I'm trying to find out what happened.
I don't
today.
know what happened.
Okay.
I done told you I don't know what happened. You're sitting here asking me, I told you everything that happened. I don't know what happened. You're asking me what happened.
But you're the only person there, so you have to know
How do
what
I know what medical problem he had? How do I know?
Okay.
I know this is bigger than your son.
This is weird, man. So I hold him by the neck, and then like I said earlier, I was squeezing his chest like this, and he was making a sound. And then I do him like this, and breathing in his mouth, and I had his head tilted like this, like you're supposed to. It's not like I had his head tilted. It was like it's supposed to be. It tilted back like this. And now, what did you want me to tell you? How did I shake him? Did I do like this? No, I did like this. Hey, buddy. And I was holding him by his neck and had his legs under him. I'm like, hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. And his arms were like that.
And that's the hardest you shook him?
Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah.
Up and down motion.
The only thing I probably did that was probably not kosher was slap him in the chest a couple of times.
Why didn't you call 911 right away? Before you got into that panic stage.
I don't know, because he was fine yesterday.
But he didn't do exactly.
He did something similar to that yesterday.
But it was more severe today.
The detectives are then called out of the room for an important update about CJ's condition. Back at the hospital, Laura is a complete wreck. She had just learned the results of the CAT scan. The prognosis was grim for CJ, who is now on life support. "I'm gonna kill him," Laura told a detective, referring to Craig after learning about the likely cause. "I'm so upset, detective, that you can't imagine. He keeps calling me. I can't imagine having to see him now." The neurologist sees retinal and brain hemorrhaging, specifically inner hemisphere fissures in the cracks between the two sides of the brain. The brain would have been moving rapidly within the skull, creating tears in the small blood vessels on the surface. They can't tell if a single event or series of events caused this. A child who suffers this kind of head trauma would not be able to feed, a doctor testified. So if Laura fed him at 7:30 a.m., he wouldn't have had these injuries before she left for work. And if he did have these injuries by the time she left, he wouldn't have survived to the 911 call. Furthermore, an x-ray showed at least one fresh rib fracture, with more discovered later. Dr. Smith testified that a baby's ribs are somewhat flexible, and there was nothing in the literature at the time about back rib fractures from CPR. CJ also had external bruising on his shoulders, showing what they call slap and grasp type injuries.
One of the things that we found out when they had us step out was that CJ has a head injury. From that CT scan that he had.
On the back of his head?
Well, more like in his brain.
How is it in his brain?
Well,
how did he have a brain injury?
Shaking.
You're telling me he's got a brain injury from shaking?
That's what the doctor's
So
telling
you're
me.
saying I shook him and
I'm
knocked
asking
his
you
head
who.
up. It had to be me. Ain't nobody else. Is my fault.
But how?
I don't know. I just told you everything that happened. I don't know. He wasn't breathing. I don't know. Now whether or not he's got a brain injury, then it's my fault. Then it's my fault. So he's gonna die?
No.
So he's fucked up?
We don't know. Babies are young and they're pretty resilient.
If he's got a brain injury, he's fucked up.
Babies are pretty resilient when it comes
Could
to...
have accidentally dropped him or something? I didn't drop him, but I mean setting him on the floor.
I don't know.
We're not supporting his head or something?
Unless he,
Banged his head?
really banged his head hard. I mean,
Yeah,
did he bang it?
It's possible. Yesterday.
When? Okay, how?
But I'm not trying to make an excuse. If my son's fucked up, it's my fault.
But you don't...
I don't know how it happened, but it's my fault. I'm watching him. I did it. My wife didn't do it, I did it. I did it. My fault.
You know...
Go ahead and take me to jail, man.
No. Do this. You're telling me you did it.
I didn't do it, though. I don't know how the fuck it happened. People say he's got brain injuries and I did it.
Sometimes people get stressed.
I don't pay
or
attention
tired.
to stuff. No, I did not shake my son. I didn't shake him. I didn't do no shit like that. I don't know how the fuck it happened. But I did it. I don't know how it fucking happened, though, but I did it. I don't know.
We're asking how
it doesn't matter if I did it.
Matter.
No, it doesn't to me. I fucked my son up. It doesn't matter how I did it.
You think it's...
It don't matter how. You don't understand. It doesn't matter how it happened. He's fucked up.
Craig, it does make a difference.
No, it doesn't. I don't know how it happened. And then if it happened to him, then I'm responsible. It don't matter how I did. My wife is gonna fucking hate me. I didn't do it on purpose. I don't know how it happened.
If it was an accident and you didn't know how to properly take
I
care of
fucking
him
killed
or
my
take care of
son.
him.
I fucking killed my son, man. I
We're
fucking
not-
killed him.
We're not saying that.
He's fucked up. Well, how did I do it?
That's what we're asking you.
I don't know. I didn't do anything to him.
Craig then offers that it could have been Laura's near accident that caused this, which was initially raised by the detectives as a possible reason for the injury. Detectives had been prodding him for all possible scenarios to feed to the doctors to explain the injuries. The detectives leave the room again. The next time they return, they will stop playing nice and leverage statements made by Laura that contradict his own.
They talked to the doctors about the whole car thing and went out and looked to see if that was possible, and they don't think that's going to be how CJ got injured.
I don't know. Like I said, it's my fault. I just don't know how.
Laura said he never threw up with her. They asked her that, and she said she never saw him throw up.
So she didn't see him throw it last night.
That's what she's saying. She said that you told her about him throwing up, but
she's laying right there.
I'm just telling you what she's telling them.
Jesus Christ, no, I don't know. Then he never threw up, and I don't know. Because I'm not sitting here playing. He said, she said, she's sleeping, and I woke her up to tell her he threw up everywhere.
And you said she was kind of mumbly.
Yeah.
Okay. Did she see the puke on him?
No, because I was wiping it off with the baby wipes, and I took him in the bath. I'm saying there is nothing I have done with him that would have done the same amount of trauma as that car would have done with the seat moving. You're sitting here giving me something to tell you. I'm not going to sit here and say he rolled off the couch and hit his head. I can sit here and say that all I want to get myself out of whatever. I haven't done anything to get out of. But not that I know of, I don't know. There's no explanation in my mind for how his head, you told me he's got a brain injury. There's no explanation for that. She put him in the bed. She went to work. I know she didn't do anything to him. Did you ask her if she dropped him on his head this morning? I don't know. Did she drop him on his head yesterday morning? I don't know. I'm not there. I don't think she did. And I think if she did, she would have woke me up and said, babe, I dropped him on his head. Or babe, I hit his head on the side of the door frame or something. So is somebody down there questioning her like you're questioning me?
We already told you
No,
that.
you said somebody down there questioning her.
Yeah.
They don't know that the car seats don't lock. Most
We
people.
we just went and talked to her about it.
And she said that the seat didn't pop forward. Is that what you're saying?
I think she said there wasn't a problem with the belt, so that's her knowledge.
She's lying. She doesn't want to get in trouble for driving around with a car that seatbelts don't work. She's complaining to me about it. I mean, I don't know what else.
There's something else that happens.
Okay, you're going to tell me that it did.
Besides the seat.
Okay, fine.
And that's just what I need to know.
I don't
because
know
I can
what
tell
happened.
the doctors. To save your son. Because I know you love him. And I know you care about him.
I didn't do anything to him.
I need to know the truth. That's it.
Okay, fine. Whatever. I mean,
something happened between Wednesday and today when you called 911. So
he's been sick for 2 days with a brain injury and nobody knows why.
Absolutely.
Nobody knows why.
You're there with him.
And she's not.
You're telling us.
I'm there in the day and he's fine.
It's me. I was there with him. It's my responsibility.
Right, it is,
so
but I don't know why.
Yeah.
There's no cooperation for what I'm saying. And it's like I'm lying. I'm not lying. Well,
I know.
She can't cooperate that he's sick. She
says you're telling her
his
that,
damn
yes.
mother.
She's saying that you're telling her that, yes. But she's saying that she didn't see it. That's all.
The interview ends at around 4:30 p.m. Craig leaves the station as a suspect, but they don't have enough evidence yet to arrest him.
Yeah, she thinks that I fucking did it.
Don't look at me like that.
Man,
You're looking
come
at
on,
me
man.
like
These
I'm
people down there telling
dogging
us
you.
Bullshit, man.
When he arrives on the 5th floor of All Children's Hospital at 5:45 p.m., he'll throw a fit. He starts yelling in the ICU, which is a generally quiet area, and will get confrontational and angry with police and detectives. He wants them to leave him and his family alone. After he finally calms down, detectives interview him again.
Accidents happen, but you need to explain to me what happened.
I didn't know that.
Okay, well, talk to me.
So how does his ribs were broken? I broke his ribs? Shaking or just what I said?
Being grabbed.
Doing the chest thing? She said it was right here.
There's some right here.
That's the chest compression he told me to do on the phone.
And there's some, looks like towards the back.
Yes, that's what I told you. I didn't do it to hurt him, man. I was doing it to help him.
Okay.
I didn't purposely break my son's ribs.
Okay, that doesn't explain that now. What about the head?
I don't know. That's what I can't. She went through this for 5 hours. I didn't purposely drop him. I don't know if I put him down when he wasn't breathing and then I went.
Did he drop accidentally?
I don't know. I didn't throw him. I didn't shake him. I didn't do anything. Now, it's possible that then I may have did a little, wasn't breathing, but I didn't shake him like I'm talking. I might have grabbed him or something and patted him in the chest and then I did this. I did a bunch of stuff, dude. But I didn't do it like... No, I didn't shake him.
Right, okay. I understand it wasn't intentional.
His neck ain't messed up, isn't it? I didn't shake his neck off.
Not that we know all.
No, there's no way to know that all because I didn't do it.
Craig is allowed into room 5569 with Laura and her mother, who are sitting at CJ's bedside. While in there, a sergeant from St. Petersburg Police said he heard something faint about him being responsible, and that he panicked and didn't know how to save him. Detectives draw Craig out of the room while another asks Laura to hide an audio recorder in her purse, which she then slides under CJ's bed.
I don't care. If you want to blame me, it's my fault. I just want to know what's going on. Just understand this, okay? Look me in my eyes. I did not hurt my son. I love my son. I did not hurt my son. What happened, man? I told you. You sound like the police now. I want to know what happened to him. I don't know. I want the truth. I told you the truth. They want me to lie. I'll tell him right now to Pierre or something. I don't know. I want the truth. I told you the truth. I just want the truth. You sound like a fucking cop in a police station. Just tell me the truth. What you want to hear. If you want to hear a lie, I'll tell you a lie. You say, I just got them for hell of it. So I threw him off the balcony. Put him in the box. What's not? I did not. I heard it.
At one point, Laura tells him that her 5-year-old has to stay with her ex-husband until this is all cleared up, so she is now without both her children. She tells him she was told her son needs to be with his father, and that if he's around Craig, then they will put the child in protective custody. In other words, she cannot be with him. The improvised sting is unsuccessful. Craig offered to lie for her, but denied any intentional action that would have caused CJ's injuries, repeating the same thing he told detectives before Laura. Laura picks up her purse and leaves the room. CJ at this point has no brain activity. The machines are keeping him alive. The family needs to make a decision. Keep hoping for a miracle, or just let go. We went round and round and round about that one, Laura's father John said about the decision to pull the plug. First he agreed with it, then he said no, then he would sign the paper, then he wouldn't sign the papers, he said about Craig. That went on for several hours. Finally, he gave in and signed, and that was it. At around midnight on February 6, 5-week-old CJ is removed from life support. His time of death is declared at around 4 a.m. Laura will hitch a ride with her father to his place this morning and stay for a couple of days until she can figure out her living situation. The drive there will be largely silent, which she attributed to shock, fatigue, and grief. Clearwater police will continue its investigation into the injuries that led to CJ's death. Laura will execute a plan to rid herself of the prime suspect, and Craig will have a meltdown that starts later on the day of his son's death with that self-threatening voicemail to Laura and one final farewell video found on his digital camera.
No, I have to do this. I have to do this. No. I'm sorry. My son. And my son's dead and I can't get him back. I'm sorry. No. I was sorry I was ever upset at him. I never hurt him, but I'm sorry that I ever told him to be quiet and shut up when he was screaming. I know. I wish I didn't do it now. I so wish I'd never said anything wrong to him. You gotta remember me yelling at him one time. Or I yelled at him and told him to be quiet, but I never hurt my son. I would not hurt my son. Oh, wow. I loved her beyond anything. I don't know what else I could have done. I could have been a better husband if we were getting married in a month. I could have been a good husband. I would have tried. I've done bad things in my life, but I never touched my son. Never. And I'm sorry, I'll never see CJ walk or call me daddy or ride a bike or do anything. I don't know what to do. I took too long to call 911. I thought he'd be all right. I didn't know what else to do. My brain wasn't working. I was running back and forth. I was fucked up. It was my son. He wasn't breathing. I didn't know what to do. It's not my fault. It is my fault, but it's not my fault. It's my fault because he was in my responsibility. And I hope you know it. And if the police are watching this, then I want to tell you that I didn't kill my son. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. And Laura didn't do it. Laura, you don't know Laura. She would never hurt my son. She would never drop him and did not tell me. She would be first to call 911 if she had dropped him. She wouldn't have told me. She would have called 911 first and then screamed at me, babe, I dropped him or something. She didn't drop him. She didn't hit his head. That woman is so overprotective of my children that it's not even funny.
The only new information that emerged from the video was that he got upset with CJ, but nothing to suggest he did anything on purpose to cause his injuries. Clearwater police officer Darla Callamore saw the digital camera near a shrine he made for CJ in the baby's room and got permission from Laura to look inside. Laura was inside with a cop to collect her belongings while Craig was taken into protective custody and Baker acted following his voicemail to her. Laura turned on the camera, heard the crying, and was immediately instructed by Darla to turn it off. Detectives need to get a search warrant first. Craig is deemed to be a threat to himself and is taken to Morton Plant Hospital for a roughly 3 or 4 night stay. In the meantime, Laura, who had a strong feeling Craig was directly involved in CJ's death, told her father she was afraid of what he might do and didn't want to see him anymore. She told him about his anger management problems and the threats he'd made toward her and her son in the past. She goes with her father to a Pinellas County court on February 8 and gets a temporary restraining order against him, which also included her suspicions about CJ's passing. The court order didn't just bar him from getting near Laura and his apartment on his own accord, but it kept him from getting to his son's funeral on the 14th and collecting his ashes. When he gets out of the hospital, he tells everyone who would lend an ear, apartment leasing employees, cops, and detectives, that he did not cause CJ's death. People who knew Craig weren't sure. The apartment office employees and Elizabeth, the neighbor who babysat CJ, said they thought he was a loving father. Craig expressed that he'd been betrayed. If he once thought Laura was innocent in all of this, that changed after he was discharged from Morton Plant.
I was literally out of my mind with grief, obviously. I mean, if you had been at the hospital, you would have known. Because even Laura's mom called my mom and was like, do you think we should send somebody to be with him? Because he's obviously distraught, right? Obviously. I mean, if you're not distraught, then you're fucking sick.
She was to pay for upsetting him and for keeping him from his son's funeral, his home, his money, and of course, from her. He just needed to figure out where she was living. Craig initially said he got her new address from CJ's death certificate, which he ordered the day before the murder. He told his mother that Laura was a dumb bitch for putting her new address on it. But when prodded about this, Craig supposedly corrected detectives and said he actually got the address from someone at CJ's funeral. It's neither here nor there, but a changing story and a bad attitude were issues that the courts would have to contend with in a very unusual legal case. Craigwall was ultimately charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. To him, they were at least half right. He continued to deny his deliberate involvement in CJ's injuries, but admitted numerous times that he killed Laura. A court denied his request to bisect the charges into 2 separate legal hearings. Craig continued to allege that it was Laura's negligence that caused him to choke and lose oxygen to his brain because she was the one to feed him last before he woke up that morning. He also contended that CJ's retinal hemorrhaging could have emerged from maternal pushing during birth. But experts, including Dr. John Thogmartin, testified that cerebral hypoxia would not cause brain bleeding, and the retinal hemorrhaging was too fresh to be carried for 5 weeks. The bleeding on the brain was also too fresh for it to have been caused by any whiplash from the near accident 2 days prior, according to the doctor, who compared the injuries to a boxer getting knocked out. But Craig continued to challenge the evidence. He claimed he was indicted for CJ's death without an autopsy, which he said showed that CJ did not have shaken baby syndrome because he didn't have neck injuries.
You got the police telling them that I shook my son. Obviously, from common sense, he doesn't have shaken baby syndrome. Now, does he? No, because the injuries are not in the front and the back of the brain. He has no, if you read the thing, he's got absolutely no problems with his neck. He had no injury in his neck. Shaking the baby's gonna injure his neck. Mm-hmm. Right? Am I right? Yes, they're gonna have injury to the neck. You whipping the head back and forth, they're gonna have neck injury. That's common sense. Shaking baby is in the front and the back of the brain. I'm no fool. If I don't like you, I'm not gonna help you. Like, I know you're not trying to help me. It's just that, just like they used y'all to try to frame me for my son, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to do the same thing to bring out the fact that, you know, they're sitting on all this stuff. You know, they never had any evidence that I did anything to my son. They never did. If they did, then why didn't they arrest me right then? Why didn't they arrest me at the hospital? Why didn't they arrest me 12 days later? They knew where I was. It's not like I was hiding.
Craig even offered to accept the death penalty if they dismissed the charge that he killed CJ. He conveyed that he did not want to be known as a baby killer. The state turned down his offer. For years, Craig bounced between having legal representation and wanting to represent himself. His request in 2013 to be his own lawyer was denied based on an evaluation that was largely behavioral, hunger strikes, and an unwillingness to cooperate. Later that year, however, he was deemed competent to give it the old college try, but was not prepared for trial in the spring of 2014, so the court pushed the date back. Just before that trial, in February 2015, Craig offered to plead guilty to Laura's murder and no contest to CJ's death on one unusual condition, that he be guaranteed the death penalty. The string was that if he wasn't given death, he can withdraw his plea. The state rejected that offer on the grounds that it was concerned the Florida Supreme Court, which automatically reviews all death sentences, would send a decision back down because there was no state case law on such a conditional plea. Instead, Craig agreed to a deal with the state stipulating that death was the appropriate sentence, but that the court would have the final say on that. Craig is thereafter adjudicated guilty, waives a jury for his sentencing hearing, gets evaluated and approved to represent himself following what's called a Faretta hearing, and then goes wild during the penalty proceeding. Craig wanted to control the mitigating evidence entered into court by offering to present his own, including the family photos and videos you just saw, which he hoped would show that he loved his son and was excited to be a father. But the court was concerned that the reviewing court would see that as an affront to the rule that the lower court must examine all available aggravating and mitigating factors, not just ones cherry-picked by the defendant. Therefore, because Craig was effectively siding with the state in his own case, the court appointed independent special counsel to seek out those additional mitigating factors, which was dealt with at what's known in Florida as a Spencer hearing. Craig viewed the independent counsel as interfering with his rights to represent himself, referring to it as a mutiny on a defense ship he called the SS Faretta, which was captained by its sole occupant. To be sure, Craig hated the fact he needed to go through hurdles to be declared competent both to represent himself and to be executed, attributing the bother to foaming at the mouth rabid dog liberals who want to take away the rights of Americans. But death is irreversible, and before that, reversible on appeal if the Florida Supreme Court finds the lower court did not answer a central question. Did Craig kill Laura while under the influence of extreme mental or emotional disturbance? So here we are. The very high-level mitigating opinion was from Dr. Brooke Butler, who wrote to the court that Craig has a long-standing history of major mental illness and has attempted suicide numerous times while incarcerated. I believe that his request to seek the death penalty is an attempt to seek assistance from the state in killing himself. The more nuanced analysis was drawn from the stuff Craig wanted suppressed: social, behavioral, criminal, and psychiatric records, as well as interviews with family members and case documents that show a family history of mental health issues. The record raised by clinical pharmacologist Dr. Daniel Buffington shows he was, at some point, diagnosed with bipolar disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, antisocial personality disorder, anger management issues, low frustration tolerance, low impulse control, hostility, and irritability. He was found to be verbally and physically threatening to people around him and was disruptive and non-compliant in school. He had been exposed to high-end medications between the ages of 5 and 12, including mood stabilizers, antipsychotics, and antidepressants. By age 10, doctors felt the meds were used excessively with minimal psychiatric counseling and would have likely altered his brain development. His mother, in fact, sued the Hammett Medical Center in Erie for issues caused by the medications. Dr. Buffington opined that there was an increased risk of long-term neural damage and psychiatric deficit associated with the use of these various classes of psychotropic meds in childhood and adolescence, and that he suffered from unstable psychiatric disorders up to and including the time of Laura's death. Those issues, he continued, were compounded by recent environmental stressors: the death of CJ, his interrogation, the restraining order by Laura, and the banishment from the funeral. Craig Wall's behavior was more likely than not impaired by extreme mental and emotional disturbances, the doctor concluded, recommending the court not impose the death penalty. But there was lots of contention with the record, which was seized by the state and cheered on by Craig. For one, Dr. Buffington acknowledged that there was no evidence showing that Craig was actively psychotic. On cross-examination, the doctor could not refute Craig's suggestion that he manipulated the Department of Corrections to get various meds for his own personal purpose, and may not have taken them anyway. The doctor's conclusion that Craig killed Laura under extreme mental or emotional disturbance is an opinion, the state argued, based in part on a historical review of medications that he cannot prove were prescribed inappropriately or that they had been properly prescribed but were just ineffective. Moreover, the state continued, there's no proof that the meds he took at such an early age caused any long-term neural damage. Fatal to the doctor's conclusion, according to the state, was the fact that he didn't even interview Craig. It didn't help that Craig was largely uncooperative during the information gathering process. Other issues raised by the state include the lack of verification of witness statements, including about Craig's poor treatment as a child. Craig alleged the claim that he was abused by the babysitter was an invention of his mother to hide her poor treatment of her son. Otherwise, there is only one documented case of possible physical mistreatment at the hands of said mother, which the state said cannot override a death sentence. Craig tried to stop the release of these personal records, but failed. He tried to withdraw his plea deal because of what he felt was an invasion of privacy. Craig was finally kicked out of the courtroom after his many days of belligerence, which included insulting counsel, the judge, and the witnesses. He was at one time fitted with a stun cuff after threatening to take the deputy's gun and start shooting if he went to trial and was found guilty of the charges against him. His standby counsel took over, but the mitigating circumstances were outweighed by the aggravating ones, which included his criminal history, evidence of premeditation found in Laura's statement that he said he would kill her if she leaves, that he sought out her address despite the restraining order, that he was armed when he broke into her home, and that it occurred in the early morning hours, making her especially vulnerable. After 6 years of legal proceedings, Craig Wall Sr. got what he wanted and was sentenced to death on both counts in June 2016. The Florida Supreme Court upheld the decision. Before he was off to death row, he had one last request of the judge. Are you going to be man enough to come up there and watch me die since you're sentencing me to die, or are you going to be a pussy and do it from the bench? I will certainly take seriously your request that I consider doing that, the judge answers, to which Craig suggests he also take into consideration that you're a pussy if you don't.
Under the laws of the state of Florida, have forfeited your right to live. Woohoo!
It's our worst nightmare for something like this to happen, said State Attorney Bernie McCabe, according to the Tampa Bay Times, about Craig getting out on bail before murdering Laura. The judges, the prosecutors all live in fear of somebody going out and doing something like this. The assistant state prosecutor who was on the restraining order violation should not have tried to settle the matter on the first court appearance before gathering more facts, and should have mentioned that Craig had an extensive criminal history and was actively being investigated for his son's death, which was noted in his arrest affidavit, McCabe said. He noted that the first court hearing is normally within 24 hours of an arrest, which is usually not enough time to research the case thoroughly and conduct a good interview with the victim. One of the hardest things to train is common sense, McCabe said, according to the paper. To me, this whole thing smacks of a lack of common sense. The result could have been a higher bail, possibly keeping him behind bars for longer. Instead, Laura is dead, and the prosecutor was reassigned to new duties as a result. In April 2010, Laura's father, John Bredesen, had his own beef to deal with. He filed a negligence lawsuit against Morton Plant Hospital for releasing Craig, who agreed with the claim.
Morton Plant was above and beyond negligent in releasing me. I was clearly not stable, and I was literally out of my mind with grief. If I were able to, I would sue them for ejecting a clearly mentally unstable, suicidal, depressed, crying constantly, and completely grief-stricken me from the hospital. I was in no shape to ask for help, so it was upon them to help me. Obviously.
The case against the hospital, however, was thrown out. I think the impact is a daily thing, John said in a victim impact statement. It's from the time it happened until the time I die. It will always impact me. To stand in a gas station and watch a father leaving with his daughter across the parking lot and know that I can never do that again. To look at my grandson and know that his brother will never know him. Know that he will never know what his brother was going to be like. There's a lot of impact, and yeah, I think about it every day. It's an impact that wakes up with me in the morning and goes to bed with me at night. And the only reason I'm still viably working at it is because I can push it somewhere and keep it there. And every once in a while it comes out, and every once in a while a tear trickles down my cheek. But it is always there. John, unlike his ex-wife Rhonda, told Craig on cross-examination that he wished he received life without parole instead of death. My daughter was my life, and you took her from me, Laura's mother said in her own statement. I loved my daughter a great deal. I miss my morning phone calls with her. Laura and I would talk every day on the phone as she would go to work. I miss my Friday evening dinners with her. I miss her smile. I miss her laughter. I miss her every day. Our grandson was an innocent 5-week-old baby when he was taken from us, she added. We did not have a lot of time with him. We were not able to see his first steps, hear his first words, or even see him going to school. Laura's memorial service was held on the 23rd of February at the same church that hosted her son's 9 days earlier. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to me narrate this story, which is based on the primary sources and secondary sources were attributed. Special thanks to the local reporters bringing light to these cases, to the staff at the records departments for assistance, and to you guys for liking the videos and engaging in the subject matter. Be well, do good, give to charity, and I'll see you next time. Good night.